Let's take a little stroll, shall we, through the halls of history, relatively recent history. Who knows who this is? Oh, you can't show it. You got his picture there. I went picture with his name on there. I was going to say maybe it's too small for some of you to see it, but put it in the chat if you know who this is. This is one of my heroes, my all-time, an artistic hero, a moral hero, a political hero, a cultural hero, a civilizational hero. Yes, that feeble, almost scared-looking fellow is none other than one Alexander Solzhenitsyn, a man who changed the world like no one else. This is his Gulag mugshot when he was imprisoned by the Soviet secret police back in the 1950s. Solzhenitsyn, after years of imprisonment in what was practically a death camp, he actually got cancer while he was in that camp and survived it. But he eventually emerged from that darkness, literally born again. He gave his life to Christ and gave his life to the pursuit of freedom for all Soviet citizens. He ascended from the darkness of that gulag to become a Nobel laureate author who exposed the evils of totalitarian communism in his books like no one else had previously done, books that were read widely by Soviet citizens all throughout the evil empire, despite having been banned by the powers that be. And after having been exiled from the Soviet Union for decades, Solzhenitsyn returned to his beloved Russia a national hero, having done more to destroy, to crush, to decisively end the evil Soviet system than anyone else in all the world. Here's another mugshot of someone you may know. And of course, that would be one Mahatma Gandhi. Now, he was actually arrested several times. And of course, he emerged from prison to eventually lead his nation of India to freedom from British colonial rule in 1947. And then there was another young rabble-rouser who no one liked. The majority opinion, actually, all the country when he first appeared onto the public scene was that this guy was a troublemaker. He was upsetting the apple cart. He was causing social discord. His antics were counterproductive. And nobody really wanted to have anything to do with him. And then this. He got arrested in Birmingham. And his mugshot was plastered across newspapers and magazines across the country, and something suddenly happened. More and more people started to sympathize with him. They began to see with their very own eyes in that mugshot the very decrepit, corrupt system that Martin Luther King was trying to expose and reform. And literally within just a few years after that photo, he ended up changing a nation like never before. This is what this mugshot is ultimately about. This mugshot, more than any news article, more than any issue, political, cultural, economic, more than any event, more than any campaign, more than any election, more than anything else, this mugshot captures palpably, tangibly, and explicitly for all to see the very systemic corruption, the very weaponized legalism, the very establishment fraud and deceit that Donald Trump has been trying to expose and rectify for the last 7 years. Even Ben Shapiro's admitting this. The former Never Trumper Ben Shapiro himself is admitting that this image is, in his words, quote, instantly iconic. This mugshot is the official rallying cry for 100 million patriots all across the nation. And that's exactly why this iconic mugshot, as of last night, became President Trump's first tweet back on X, the old Twitter. The Great One is back, and he is back with what is turning out to be the single most iconic mug shot ever.
He's done it, gang. I don't know how, but Mike Lindell has done it. He's taken what was already one of the most comfortable pillows on the market, and he made it even better. That's right, MyPillow 2.0 is here. With Mike's new cooling fabric technology combined with his original MyPillow fill, gang, it's truly the most comfortable pillow out there. It's always cool to the touch and provides some of the best neck support I've ever experienced in a pillow, leading to some pretty incredible sleep. For a limited time, Mike is providing over $150 off his new MyPillow if you use code Turley. That's right. MyPillow.com/Turley will get you massive savings on a set of 4 MyPillow 2.0. Mike is obviously, he's a true patriot. He's a friend of the show, and he's a bona fide American entrepreneur. It's really a great product, so don't wait. Mike told me these new pillows are selling like hotcakes, and this offer will not last forever. Click on the link in the description below and use code Turley to get your MyPillow 2.0 today.
Now, we need to be very, very, very clear here on who the real enemy is. What all of those past mugshots had in common is that these defenders of freedom all recognized who the real adversary was, and they were able to effectively mobilize mass millions to overcome precisely that enemy. And overcome that enemy permanently, to tear down the wall once and for all. So hear me very, very clearly here. Trump's enemy, our enemy, the enemy of 100 million patriots across the nation, is not the Democrats. Yes, you heard me right. The enemy is not the Democrat Party. Oh, I know all of these all of these corrupt, deceitful, vile prosecutors are Democrats. I'm well aware of that. But they're just the surface. You know this. They're just the tip of the iceberg. They are not the ones who are ultimately pulling the strings here. They're not the ones calling the shots. They're stooges. They're useful idiots. They're being used. Willingly so. But you all know who the real enemy is. The real enemy, the enemy of 100 million patriots across the nation, is the establishment ruling class. The political elite made up of both Democrats and Republicans. Make absolutely no mistake, this witch hunt, this lawfare would not be happening if the Republican leadership wasn't going along with it. That mugshot is happening not because of what Democrats are doing. It's happening because of what Republicans are allowing. If the Republican leadership were truly this feckless and helpless and weak, if they were always this cowardly, always this pathetic, this ineffective, this feeble and defenseless, the Democrats would have taken over our nation through this kind of reckless lawfare years ago. They would have smacked around and kick-circled this cowering Republican leadership ages ago. The only reason the Democrats haven't done this before is because the soulless, pathetic, patriot-hating, donor-controlled Republican leadership would never have allowed them to do it. The moment Democrats began raiding the homes of any other former president, the moment they started indicting any other Republican administration or fellow members of Congress, they would have unleashed World War III, politically speaking. The Republicans would have unleashed mutually assured destruction. But what is this feckless Republican leadership doing now? I've not seen a single Republican leader out there putting forward a single strategic plan of action to actually defeat and stop this insanity. Not one. Oh, they whine and complain in front of TV cameras about it. They send out panicked, pathetic little tweets. They'll impotently lament that this is the end of our republic, that this is a sad day for America. But when it comes to the fundamental question, so what the hell are you going to do to actually stop this? They cower and they retreat. They run away and hide. But of course, not before they fundraise off of it. This is an outrage. Send me money. Take, for example, this fellow. This is Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr, a Republican. Now, Robert Barnes, who's of course a lawyer and knows Georgia state law very, very well, he's arguing that according to Georgia state law, the Attorney General is legally mandated to be involved in any state criminal case involving removal to federal court. So as many of you know, a case can be what's called removed from state courts to federal courts on the grounds that the case targets a person's actions while they were a federal official. So this is intrinsic to the very structure of our federalist system, which, of course, the current Supreme Court, the conservative majority there, has been an avid defender. So the operative principle here is that federal officials can't be targeted under state laws for actions they took in their official federal capacity. This is part of the federalist system in which certain issues are reserved for states and others for the federal government to handle. And here's the key. In previous cases like this one, when federal courts intervened, when the removal was granted, when the case was taken away from local prosecutors, in every single previous incident of that, the case was dismissed. The federal courts weren't interested in it. So according to Georgia law, the Attorney General must be involved in all motions to remove a case from local court to federal court, which precedent suggests would effectively end this saga entirely. Now, Mark Meadows, President Trump's former chief of staff, has, on behalf of, I believe, all defendants, filed for precisely that, for removing this case from local court to federal court. But according to Barnes, this Republican Attorney General, Chris Carr, is AWOL. He's nowhere to be found. He's done absolutely nothing about it. A Republican Attorney General in Georgia could, in fact, shut this case down this very second. He could have shut it down yesterday before Trump was even arraigned. But this Republican has refused to do so.